It all starts with its protagonist running through the forest, thinking that he shouldn't be late on such an important day. But it doesn't take long for him to find his companions. To, a rank C hunter of the Watcher class and the guild's main tank, couldn't believe that once again a newbie was arriving late, as it was different in his time. Jiming, a rank C hunter of the Fighter class and short-range dealer of the guild, told the knight that he too was always late when he was a newbie, so he shouldn't complain. Shin arrived and awkwardly apologized for being late. He was a rank 0 support of the creation class, specializing in weapon creation for the guild. Together, they walked towards the portal, and To told the protagonist that there was no need to be scared as he was just joking and that he wasn't that late, so it was fine. Jiming said they could talk on the way since Hunu and Doyun were already positioned. Shin found it nice to be reassured by his companions, but thought things were bad as it had been 3 months since he joined the guild and this was his first dungeon invasion. He was late. As they passed through the portal, the group chatted, and the protagonist imagined that, as this was his first dungeon invasion as support, he had to prove he was useful. Inside, he met Doyun, who asked if it was his first time in a dungeon. Doyun was a rank B hunter of the assassin class, a short-range dealer, and the guild master. Nervously, Shin said it was his first time as support, but had been in some dungeons as an assistant. Doyun said it was better to give some explanations. He explained that supports don't have the ability to fight like hunters, so they needed to be more careful about where they positioned themselves as there was a possibility of getting drawn into the fight if too close, but if too far away, they couldn't be protected. The idea was to maintain a good distance. The master told the protagonist that as he was a creator, he could keep a good distance and create a dagger when he gave the signal. After the explanation, Doyun asked if what he had explained was easy to understand. Shin said yes, but asked the master if he didn't need any other weapon. The assassin said yes, as he was the only one who needed extra weapons anyway, but besides that, it was an easy dungeon. He also reassured the protagonist that, as it was his first dungeon, there was no need to overwhelm himself so he could stay calm. Hunwoo, who was nearby, said he could feel mana, meaning there was a monster nearby. He was a rank C hunter of the mage class, a dealer of long distance from the guild. Doyum tells everyone to prepare for battle and that now they should proceed in formation. He asks the mage if there are any observations. Hunu says there are 3 small mana signals and a large one that seems to be the boss monster. Doyum finds this strange, as a boss normally doesn't leave its area, but says it's okay, and that he will take on the boss while they deal with the others. He turns and asks Shin how long it would take to make a dagger if he hurried. The protagonist says about 20 seconds if he's quick, but it would only last for less than a minute. The assassin says that's great and that he can start making them, as he will finish everything in 40 seconds. It doesn't take long for them to find the group of monsters, which, besides the boss, included level 0 crystal lizards, a monster that grows mana stones in dungeons. Their appearance and abilities change depending on the type of mana stones consumed. Upon seeing the creature approach, Doyum says he will start using his strength. He strikes the ground with his shield, causing a great impact and throwing the monsters away. Not wasting any time, Jiming attacks while the monster is stunned, delivering a strong blow to the lizard and defeating it easily. But after attacking the first creature and positioning himself to face the rest, he realizes they heal faster than expected, so he warns his companions as they were heading towards them. Down was positioned for defense while Hyun-woo prepared his spell. It doesn't take long for the mage to start attacking, shooting several fireballs at the lizards. Seeing the attack succeed, he celebrates with the knight, who tells them to help the master attack the boss now. Shin is impressed by his companion's order of attack and admits that this is how a guild fights. Doyum starts asking for daggers from the protagonist, who, despite being distracted by the combat, had already started creating, but he knows he needs to focus more. That dagger was a rank F creation, a basic ability of a creator that uses the user's mana to create objects. The durability and quality of the item depend on the user's mana. Once the weapon is ready, Shin throws it to Doyum, who activates his ability to transform it into a rank A shadow weapon upon catching it. This ability uses this user's weapon to turn it into a shadow weapon with improved quality and mana, depending on the user's mana. After a certain amount of time, it disappears. The assassin goes to confront the boss, who was about to attack, and with just one strike ripping off the monster's head easily before the dagger disappeared, after everything was over, Dom asked the group if anyone had been hurt. Everyone said they were fine. Shin, now seeing the guild in combat up close, thought they were better than he expected and that each one of them was incredible, showing perfect teamwork. The protagonist imagined that this group would be able to become one of the best guilds with many achievements, but he thought that compared to them, he had only managed to make a dagger, not being such a useful help. The protagonist was wondering if he deserved to be part of that guild until Doyum approached and said that he had done a good job and asked if he had been hurt somewhere. Shin said no, but also that he hadn't been truly useful. The guild master didn't understand why the protagonist was saying that, so he said that now he could save a lot of money having someone who created weapons because his ability consumed the weapons, and so he wouldn't be able to afford even the cheapest ones. That's why he needed a creator on the team, as it seemed he only needed a weapon with mana inside him to activate his shadow ability. After explaining this to Shin, Doyum said it was a good job for him to have created the dagger and that he was already looking forward to the next one, so he shouldn't leave the guild. This made the protagonist more excited, and he said he would do his best. The knight approached and said it was time for them to get the loot. But suddenly the ground began to shake, and Jimming wondered if it could be an earthquake. Hunu also said he didn't know, as it seemed like the cave was collapsing after they killed the boss. Shin told everyone that the wall was crumbling. The mage looked and said it seemed like a passage that was connected to another place. After listening to his companion, the guildmaster wondered where that passage would lead. Daum, thrilled by treasures, said it could be a secret path leading to a secret treasure, and they couldn't waste time and should go quickly. Jimming was thinking the same as the knight and agreed with his idea, but cautiously, Hunu told his companions to stay calm, as they couldn't just enter without studying it first. Doyum asked the mage if he could detect anything. The mage said no. The assassin then said it was okay, as he didn't think the place would collapse anyway, but they should be quick. Dun got excited as the guildmaster had allowed it, and now he would go. The mage, although hesitant, said that he would also go. Doyum also called Shin to go with them. The group started walking excitedly toward the hole in the wall, but unexpectedly, a huge monster appeared, attacking everyone except the protagonist, who managed to run. Shin, while trying to escape the monster, wondered how this happened as now everyone was dead except him. He couldn't understand how that monster was there since it should be from a rank D dungeon. The protagonist admitted that he had never even heard of a monster that couldn't be detected with magic. Looking back, thinking he had managed to lose the monster, he was surprised to see that it had already gotten closer. Before he could do anything, he was attacked from behind and thrown far away. With the blow to his back, he began coughing up blood. Even so, Shin didn't give up and tried to get up, seeing the monster approaching. He thought he couldn't die that way and quickly started creating a dagger. As soon as the weapon was created, he threw it at the monster in an attempt to defeat it. But the dagger had no effect against the creature, which easily defended itself and counterattacked, punching the ground. The impact broke the ground, causing the protagonist to fall into the frozen lake. While sinking, Shin thought that was how things were. A rank D support who couldn't even use basic buffs like healing. After finally finding a guild that really needed him, he ended up running away and abandoning them when they needed him most, showing that he was pathetic. The protagonist admitted that anyone else would have been more helpful, and that's why he never admitted he never wanted to awaken. This was a dream Shin should never have reached. But when he least expected it, a message appeared that he had discovered the spring code, fulfilling all the conditions to become a player. The protagonist began to shine intensely until a welcome message appeared, saying there was a new reward. Shin didn't understand what was happening and became desperate in that situation, but with no way out, he accepted the proposal. A staircase was created within the water, leading the protagonist to the hole from where he had fallen. Upon exiting the water and facing the monster again, a message appeared for the weapon creator Shin that he would inherit the experiences of his previous self. With that, energy began to radiate from his body until a message appeared saying the reward distribution was complete. His eyes changed, and he was now stronger than before. Shin created several swords, attacking the monster without giving it any chance to counterattack. While the creature was on the ground, the protagonist was confused, with unknown memories fixed in his head, but noticing the monster approaching to attack him, he created a huge shield to defend against the powerful punch of the ice golem. He was impressed to see that the creature had barely received any damage from his attack, finding the golem's durability formidable. It didn't take long for the shield to break. Shin retreated, assuming that the information in those memories was correct. A golem-type monster, its weak points, and tactics to destroy it were still the same. A supposed golem-type monster had no specific weak points. Even if it received damage, it had a regeneration ability, as was the case here. If possible, it was recommended to inflict damage on the creature from multiple angles at once, with the user of the ability as the central point. Materialize a grid within a distance equal to the creations made in the grid, which can move freely according to the will of the user of the ability. Shin created several swords, all pointing at the monster, then started attacking with all of them at once, causing a massive attack, destroying the ice golem. The protagonist approached the defeated creature and stated that he thought the spatial grid was just an auxiliary ability that allowed him to use his creations faster, but now he realized that as the proficiency of the ability increased, it could be used as an attack ability itself. A message appeared that the boss was defeated, but Shin didn't understand why he couldn't see the dungeon or monster information. Suddenly, an aura began to emerge in front of him, and a message appeared that the passive ability Magic Absorption was activated. An energy orb accumulated in Shin's hand, making him wonder what it could be. After this, he decided to use his memories to try to understand what had just happened. In the memories of his previous game, he had received the message, "Weapon Creator Shin, you will inherit the experiences of your previous self." After seeing this message, the protagonist didn't know exactly what it meant, but now he was definitely the same, only from a few years into the future. In that future he had already lived, the whole world had fallen apart, with things too horrible to speak of. Besides that, Shin absorbed all the experiences and knowledge from that time. Knowing this, the protagonist admitted that even if this was the future, it probably wasn't the future of the world he was in now. There were too many things out of place, like the status window he managed to make appear in front of him, showing the list of skills he had, including creation, connection, paying rent, and spatial grid. This was something Shin couldn't see in his past life. With all this, the protagonist now recognizes that he has become a player, a term for the few who were chosen and obtained an awakening. According to his memories, at that time players did not yet exist in the world, and in about 2 years, a small number of awakened individuals were chosen to become players. Just like the assassin Doyum, who was chosen as a player, a blue screen appeared that was only visible to those who had been chosen. In the future, it was a mysterious thing called the system, something that seemed like a joke but was enough to shock all the awakened in the world. The system was not the only thing given to the players. Each player received a different reward. They gained strengths and abilities separate from those they had as awakened individuals. The system and the rewards, these two things that emerged from nowhere, were then used by the players and caused more explosive growth compared to other awakened individuals. Thanks to the work of the guild leader, who was chosen as a player, the Daeun Guild, which the protagonist was part of, was able to develop into a top-class guild. Shin did not have direct relations with this, but it became the catalyst for his growth in his past journey and to remain confident with a developing guild. The protagonist honed his skills repeatedly. Now, Shin can check the skills he learned and their proficiencies in the system window. Before, he thought himself pathetic when hearing about this at the beginning. The protagonist wonders if his skills and abilities transferred from his past life. Something was different. The skills used in the golem's body were an ability he didn't even have in his previous life. It was called Magic Absorption, where he had to accumulate energy from the contaminated mana existing within the dungeons. If the accumulated magic exceeded the limit, a new reward would be delivered. Shin doesn't remember hearing about any player having something like this, so he imagines it might be a reward given only to him. However, he affirms that he already had an idea about how he got that magic, but Shin wanted to think about it later, as taking care of his friends' bodies was the priority. After a while at the Hunter Association headquarters, a woman looking out the window with her boss asked if she could send Shin away. The boss asked why she had this attitude. The assistant said it was strange since a small guild had attacked an unconfirmed dungeon and had an accident, with 4 to 5 people dying, and the only survivor being a support of rank D. Aruto understood that if the support had fled while the other hunters were fighting, it would be considered a type of betrayal, but that wasn't the case, as the boy had taken care of the bodies and even reported to the association. Yuck said the portal had already disappeared, so any additional confirmation was no longer possible. The girl wanted to know her boss's opinion since she found the situation very strange. Aruto asked if she thought a rank D support had killed a hunter. Then he tapped Yuki on the head with a folder, telling her to wake up, that this wasn't a police case. And besides, she knew that even if something strange happened, things that happen in the dungeon couldn't be verified. They could only gather evidence as it emerged. Remembering what her boss said, Yuck acknowledged it was true. Aruto asked if she had any other leads since this had been happening frequently in recent days, hunters disappearing after finding a portal and not reporting it. If they reported to the association and the portal went to auction, all the guild would get was a monetary prize. Instead, they risked their lives and entered secretly. Additionally, it was almost impossible for small guilds to win an auction for a portal. The boss, walking away, told the secretary that if there was anything else, she should call the boy if there was an additional investigation or something like that. Yuck said she now understood. While walking, Haruto started reading Shin's file and admitted it was different from a normal case, even though everything made sense and the situation was understandable. But he still had a feeling that something strange was going on. He remembered his conversation with the boy, noting that his state while being questioned was too calm. Moreover, Shin had almost no experience in dungeons and witnessed a tragedy, so it wouldn't be strange if he had freaked out. There were also some missing parts in the middle, even though he explained the incident clearly. Haruto admitted that it could just be the boy's normal personality because he had seen people like that before, but thought that something strange was going on. He still didn't know what it was. The investigator recognized that it was frustrating, but not something he could worry about at the moment, but he knew he should take a closer look later to this case. Meanwhile, Shin, walking through the city, reflected that something was strange because he didn't understand that unconfirmed portal, as that dungeon didn't exist in the memories of his previous gameplay. Additionally, all the guild members had signed the portal bid form, which definitely had an association stamp. The protagonist thought that since the dungeon was registered as an unconfirmed portal by the association, he deduced that someone pretending to be from the association might have tricked the One Guild, or the association itself might be involved. But what worried Shin the most was that this didn't only happen to the Dawn Guild. As the investigator said, unconfirmed portals with missing person cases had already become a problem. The protagonist didn't know the whole story, but all the guilds in the news had a common theme. They all included players like the guild leader Doyum and even prodigies who would be called heroes in the future. To Shin, there was someone behind all this wanting to erase the presence of these heroes. So he decided that from now on, he must hide his abilities well to not become a victim, because he had become the only survivor of a missing person case that would remain unresolved. If he did anything suspicious, he could be caught red-handed. Shin knew he had around 2 years until the first player selection to prepare. Therefore, he needed to mobilize each of his abilities and develop them until that day. The protagonist thought he needed to find a way to grow without attracting too much attention, so he started selecting some usable skills and soon found one. A year later, in the middle of the forest, Vikran fought against a monster along with his guild. After attacking the creature, his sword broke upon hitting the shield, then suffered a counterattack, being thrown far away. Even so, the warrior managed to stop by embedding the remaining piece of his sword, but he noticed the monster was approaching, jumping to attack him. Vikran dodged, but was almost hit. He stayed close to his companions, who, like him, were terrified as they didn't know how they would defeat that monster that was approaching. The creature was the Gnoll Lord with a danger level of D. A high-ranking Gnoll has physical abilities that exceed those of a normal Gnoll. The skin of a Gnoll is not only physically tough, but also reflects and is immune to magic. Even so, it is sought after by hunters affiliated with magic. Vikram said that a Gnoll Lord in a high-rank dungeon should freeze to death, but soon remembered that even among high-rank Gnolls had heard that the monster was hard to kill. The creature attacked, and the guild knight rushed forward and managed to stop it with his shield, making a great effort to hold it back. He said they wouldn't last long if they kept only blocking attacks. Junel said it didn't matter what Vikram did. He had to cause some damage to the knoll. But the warrior was terrified in that situation. The god of death of low-level hunters, that's what they called the Knoll Lords. The reason they were called that wasn't just because of their superior physical abilities. Since monsters of this rank are weak to magic, no matter how low the level of an adventurer group is, they always depend on magic. However, Gnoll Lords don't follow this logic. Hunters who were confident with only low-rank magic faced fear for the first time, and the cost of their stupidity and pride was usually the group's annihilation. Now, the protagonist's guild had a strictly physical damage dealer, yet he was useless in physical combat, and his weapon was completely destroyed. Vikram, seeing his companion making the maximum effort to defend them, felt indignant for not having any weapons left, and June was asking him to attack. The dealer admitted that if he knew it would be this hard, he wouldn't have been greedy. He would have gathered the maximum number of people because he didn't expect his desire to use as few people as possible, and hire a mage would mess things up this way. Vikram noticed there was someone who only collected crystals while they fought. That was the helper who didn't participate in the battle, but had the role of collecting and transporting byproducts like magic stones. As long as they had a minimum ability to sense mana, anyone could do it, so their treatment and recognition among the awakened weren't great. They were basically the jack-of-all-trades of the group. Vikram didn't understand why they had a helper on the team, but he noticed that his group was about to die, yet the guy didn't care and didn't stop doing his job. Observing the helper, he noticed his tool was disappearing. So he thought it might be a creation ability, and even though he couldn't expect much quality, he thought it was the alternative he had. The dealer called the helper, who was Shin, and approached, asking if he was a creator and if he could make swords. The protagonist said he could. Vi said anything was fine but wanted a sturdy sword. Shin apologized and said he had joined the guild as a helper, not as support. This irritated the dealer, who said it wasn't the time to say something so nonsensical. On that occasion, they were about to die, and if they couldn't defeat the boss, they would also die. The protagonist took a deep breath, started creating the sword, and said it was fine but had one condition. After they cleared the dungeon, they should forget everything about his ability and pay him the amount for a normal support. If they agreed, he would help. Vikram got furious and told Shin that someone like him, who couldn't get a job as a creator and was running around as a helper, thought he could clear the dungeon just with weapons. This showed he was just stubborn. After finishing creating the weapon, Shin smiled and said it was funny because good weapons were a necessary element to clear a dungeon. The protagonist created better weapons for everyone in the group and said he would ensure that as long as the dealer had the necessary element, all members would be able to clear that dungeon. Meanwhile, in the Overkill Guild, one of the 3 largest guilds in Korea, the assistant walked to the guild president's office and asked to enter. After being allowed to enter, the girl told the president that the Awakened Association had sent a cooperation request. Taeyeon asked if it was because of the dungeon with the rank error. Hisu said yes, and moreover, it was a cooperation request, but it seemed they were willing to pay whatever was necessary. The president asked if the association had no other options, and we'll see it in the next episode. Remember to subscribe and leave a like.